Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Untitled Reviews, this being a show where it's about dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Kevin Can F himself. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Literally picking up where the last episode left off, I was wondering if we were going to get Patty's reactions to all of this fully, and she immediately is like, nah, you're having a moment, you're not really going to do it. She's like, no, I'm really going to do it. But Patty's just saying, like, no, you're not capable of doing it. Because it's like, for one, it's like, it's like, you're like wallpaper. It's trying to say, like, I mean that in the best way possible. It's like, sadly, that statement itself kind of sends Allison down the whole path this episode, but we'll get to that soon enough. Because first and foremost, it's a situation where, it's just like, she just doesn't think Allison has it in her. It's like, you're not that type of person. And Allison, immediately kind of shrinks a little bit. And I think that's the sad thing of, like, she feels like she's always been kind of shrunk, especially in her marriage to Kevin. Like, he always made her feel small. And I think in this moment, she just feels small again. And it's just kind of like, right, I guess you're right, I can't. But it's like, I think that makes her want to do it even more of like, no, I can do this, I will do it. But coming back, it's like, okay, so, wait, I have this bruise from that trucker fellow. What should I do? It's like, I don't know, cover it up. It's like, do you think I'm really going to let Neil know about this gun? And it's like, no, I'm going to bury it in the backyard and just pretend like everything's fine. So, obviously, there's the whole her and Kurt situation. Because it's like, oh, hey, he's like, yeah, did you have time to think about it? She's like, what? And he's like, oh, you forgot that I proposed. She's like, no, I didn't forget about it. I was going to think about it. I thought about it. And it's like, oh, like, that's the thing of, like, I wonder why is Patty in that relationship? Because doesn't seem like she really cares for Kurt that much. Once again, the comparison I made was like a moral oral situation of, why not? That's what it seems like. Like, when it came to morals, Oral's parents, like, that was his old situation, their situation of, like, they were together just because, why not? So I'm wondering, is that the same thing, or just like, so she didn't just have to be alone, but, like, wouldn't you perhaps prefer being alone? I don't know, maybe on some level she actually did like Kurt, but it's just like, it's like, you're stable and it's fine. I don't need this to be some great relationship. It's not going to be like, oh, we're madly in love with each other. It's out an obvious thing where he cares about her more than she cares about him. But I'm just like, why stick around in this relationship then? But I guess it's like, once again, having somebody is better than nothing. At least maybe that's from her perspective. And it's just kind of like, he's like, well, like, maybe we shouldn't even be like, do you even want to get married? And she's like, no, Because for her, it's like, I'm not even allowed to live my life the way I want to, but for him, it's like, he wants to have, plan a future together. And if that's not going to be the case, he'd rather them not be together. And he's basically like, well, go in that hellhole or whatever with Kevin. So things kind of end abruptly there. And then obviously she has to deal with Kevin, Pete, as well as Neil, because they're like, they're waiting for Allison to show up, and they're both seated, and it's like, all right, here's some evidence that the fact of the matter is that even though he's an idiot, Kevin actually pulled some stuff together where he was like, the fact of the matter is, I found this burger wrapper. The closest one from where you were supposed to be going was 3 hours away. So you went out of your way to, he's like, Allison, she's a simpleton and blah, blah, blah. And once again, doing everything he can to, shit on her. But the fact is, he's like, now, Patty, you'd be the one that would most likely do this. Well, it really pisses him off, because he was like, you were up to something else. Because he was like, there was no, salon, expo type of thing going on in the area. He's like, I look. And also, but once again, the fact is, he looked at all of this, and what's really upsetting to him is, like, you got a burger from that place, and you didn't get me one. They try to be like, oh, well, the fact of the matter is, would have been cold. And he's like, that's why I have that's why we have a toaster. And so, like, he has this whole, like, murder board, basically, of explaining, like, him figuring this all out and how it all connects. And because of that, Patty officially gets excommunicated from from the Church of Kevin. I think maybe it had a bigger impact on her than she thought. I think it's also, because I think this episode was an eye-opener for her. Like, and she talks about it in the episode, she finally sees Kevin the way Allison does. it's not as bad because she gets to just leave, and she's had to deal with her brother her entire life, but it's like she's had blinders on. Once again, it's like you kind of have no choice but to join up with them. It's just you kind of accept it as is because it's family. You have no choice. So I think she had blinders on because, you know, he's always kind of been that way. But Allison has to be married with him, living with him all the time. She has the benefit of, like, yeah, your family and everything, but you still get to leave whenever you want to. So I think that's what that, you know, comes down to. Because obviously she's going through it this episode because she had Nick roll up in fact, break into her salon, which I should have figured as much. Nick, who's played by the actor, I believe is Robin. Ironically enough, he would have the name Robin, and he was in Gotham as Oswald Cobblepot, aka Penguin. I saw he was in the first or second episodes, but he was only in it for like one scene, and now it's like, oh, like now, like, yeah, he's come back in the story full force. Because he's like, oh, he knows, like, what Patty's been up to. He's like, oh, you, like, oh, yeah, my aunt gets pills from me. He's like, oh, you thought she just went through 2 bottles by herself? It's like, yeah, everyone in this town has issues. But basically, it's like, yeah, like, half of my clients and stuff, like, half the people I know get from you. So basically, some of the people associated have been like, he's been one of the people selling. Like, she's kind of been inadvertently the main distributor, even though, like, the pharmacy dude kind of was. But she's kind of been the middle management to, like, other people selling stuff as well. So for him, it's like things have kind of run dry. So you need to kind of like, you kind of cut off my operation too. So I need you to get more pills because my operation screwed up because you got, you know, so it's like, right. The thing is, you turned blinders on. You didn't want to know. You didn't ask too many questions. Like, right, these are people who have issues, so you thought you were helping them. You never thought beyond that. So, once again, the dude that OD'd in the library on the second episode, Patty could be responsible for that too, because inadvertently she's been selling these pills to people who have people associated with them, like Nick. People like Nick who've been taking some of those pills and selling and making a profit, making a business of their own. So she's kind of inadvertently ended up helping create the drug trade in her town. Like, she's actually been a pivotal role in it, inadvertently, unaware. You know, she thought she started this just trying to help people, and now, but once again, it's because she didn't want to ask too many questions, so now she's in the situation. Plus, she's got Detective Ridgway being like, yo, I've got more questions for you. At first, I was like, I'm like, is she, like, the fact that she wants to talk to Patty, I'm like, why is that? She's like, oh, what are you doing Friday? I was like, at first, I was like, is she trying to, like, at first I was like, is she trying to hit on Patty or something? Is that what that was? I was like, is that why she's actually making excuses to see Patty over and over again? Is she trying to use the investigation as an excuse because she actually kind of likes Patty or something? I don't know. I might be reading too much into that. Or maybe, you know, she might just be a really good detective and it's like, oh, I know you're involved in it in some shape or form. You know, Nick even shows up later on being like, you know who I am, right? And she's like, yeah, I've heard of you. So he's like, yes, so you better give me those pills or it's basically going to be a problem. So she's in a complicated situation there. At the same time, Allison is kind of, you know, saying, fuck it. And she's kind of going a little rogue this episode, especially because like that store in particular, the ladies there throw so much shit. Because like Jen was there, and she was like, "Oh, like this will work for the bags under your eye." I mean, she's like, "No, not like you have any." And that other girl behind her was like laughing. I was like, "Oh, like why is everyone in that store so terrible?" You know, it's like you feel bad for Allison. And she's like, "Wait, is this $30?" She's like, "Oh yeah, but there's a CVS down." I was like, "Oh, why do you have to be so snooty?" It's just like you could have said it in the most nicer way, be like, oh, well, if this is too much for you, honestly, let me give you the hookup. There's like you can get way cheap. Like you could be like helpful in that regard, but you're looking down and like, oh, there's a CVS. It's just like, oh, just shut. It's like, oh, why you have to mean girl it up like that? And so that's why Allison stole like it was a thing of lipstick, but she ended up throwing it away because it wasn't the right shade. It was like pinkish purple, and she was just like, oh. But, you know, for her, she felt good for a moment because she said, I stole. And then she kind of continues to go rogue because, like, Patty stops by to drink some vodka, even though she hadn't even rightly paid for it yet. But it's like, kind of the family discount type of thing. But, Allison's kind of knocks one back, too. There's a dude that bumps into her who was completely rude. He's like, I said sorry, you uppity. And he calls her like a bitch or whatever. And then she's standing up for herself. But then her aunt's like, no, here, take this, it's on us. And then it's just like, wait, what are you doing? He's rude to me, bumped into me, and didn't call me a bitch. It's like, yeah, so what? Like, all we have to deal with on a regular basis. She's like, someone spit on me the other day. I was like, whoa. And you're just, and she's just, and then once again, it's that sad aspect of just kind of like a lot of people in this world, like her aunt, as well as Patty, just kind of accept things as they are, just like, because that's the biggest thing for Patty is like, I don't want things to change. I'm fine with things being the way they are. Just like, I think for her, just like coasting through life is fine. Like things just being the way they are. Like I don't need things to get better. I don't want things to get worse. But just let them stay the way they are. It's fine. Like I think living a fine life, just middle of the road, to okay is the only way anyone in that town makes it through their life. I think that's kind of the perspective Patty has. I think that's kind of the perspective of that town, and you see that with like Allison's aunt. But you know, Allison's like tired of dealing with everything on a regular basis, so she ups and quits and bounces. And you see Patty almost being like super impressed, you know, with all of that. Even to the point that Allison decides she's going to do what she wants, and she hooks up with Sam. And it's like, yeah, things don't have to be complicated. I mean, things are complicated, but, you know, this just could be fun. We could just be living in the moment then. But then reality starts sinking in because she's like, I hated that job. I mean, yeah, I got paid, but it's not like I got paid a lot. But now what am I going to do? And then she starts freaking out, and Sam's like, and there's the Allison I know, because now reality creeped in. Because it's like, right, I quit my job. I actually don't have any plans, because what am I going to do? Like, rely on my husband's salary? Like, what am I going to do? Like, have an allowance from him? Because Kevin is a douchebag enough to give her an allowance or something like that. We could definitely see that. I mean, he's also the one that like burned through their savings and stuff like that, which Kevin doesn't know that she knows now. She's known for a while, so once again, which is just the fact is he also knowing it and he still hasn't said anything either. Probably is going to make you hate him even more. The fact is that he still continues to lie about it. I mean, to be fair, he was lying the entire time. Everyone else was as well. It's just you were the only one not to know about it, you know? But Sam ends up offering Allison a job, which for her, it's like, right, this could be the new this could be the beginning of the new chapter that is my life. All she has to do is kill Kevin, which Patty, you know, she needs those pills and everything, which she didn't realize Allison had them, so they sit down and talk about it. It's like, wait, you're actually planning to go through this. I literally told you I was. It's not my fault you didn't believe me when I said I was. It's like, okay, but it's like, all right, fine. Let's say you do this. Are you sure? And she's like, what? It's like, even that bottle, are you sure it's going to be enough to actually take down Kevin? Because what if he wakes up afterwards wondering like, oh, why was I so out of it that I ended up pissing myself? So you can get caught in that regard. Because if you're going to kill Kevin with these pills and everything, you better make sure he actually ODs and dies. Because there's also the chance that, hey, you don't also think, you got to think about the circumstances of if he did die, like, who would be around him? Like, maybe someone's going to call in. I mean, because we don't really know the full details of Allison's murder plot, because it could have been a thing of, hey, it's just you and me, and then like, and then he just like ODs and dies. But what if other people around? They call an ambulance. They are able to pump his stomach and save his life. That in itself would ask like open up a whole buttload of questions. So, I mean, once again, we don't know Allison's not planned, so it could have just been like, she would wait till they're alone, but obviously his family would ask questions. You know, like, there's a lot of, like, factors that have to be considered in something like this, so. But you have Patty coming from the perspective of, one, she needs the pills, but I'm wondering what she brought up some valid points, but I'm curious, was it mainly just, nah, I need those pills for my situation, so she was using this as an excuse, but she brought up, right, there's already publicly known tension between me and Kevin, and the fact of the matter is, you know, and there's already a detective looking into the drug trade in this town, and it's like, right, all that could lead back to me, so you doing this will not, like, potentially get me locked up. So you might not care about Kevin or whatever, but tell me you have enough of a conscience to care about me. But for Allison, it's like, no, I want him dead enough that I'm going to do this. I think it's even ironic that she ended up, I mean, well, Sam's a really good cook, so I guess that's where it comes into play, but it's like trying to make him like make an exact copy of the burger so Kevin won't notice. But it is ironic that the guy you're kind of having an affair with inadvertently wasn't giving you the tools necessary to mask your crime as you murder your husband. Just, the irony isn't lost there. Usually in those particular cases, not usually, well, I think sometimes in those particular cases, the person who's the affair situation, like this, that the other party is usually party to, or, you know, aware of like, right, this murder plot to kill that person, so we can all be happily ever after. But obviously Sam doesn't know that, because it's still like we're doing our thing, but we're still both in our respective marriages, which Sam brings up the fact this is complicated. I'm curious, like, besides just the Jen thing, well, because also, like, he and Allison, like, cheated, like, he cheated on Jen back in high school and everything, too, with Allison, so it's, like, history repeating itself in that regard. But I'm wondering, like, is she pregnant or something? The fact is that he was like, it's complicated. Maybe it's just kind of like, yeah, if we get divorced, I could lose the business, I'll, have to, lose half of what I have or something like that. Maybe she's invested, maybe Jen is invested in the company, so like if they in his business and everything, so like if they split, she takes her money out of it. I don't know. I'm just curious, like, what complicated entails. I mean, granted, an affair in general is going to be a complicated, because it's like, right, you have to live this double life of keeping your circumstances quiet. I mean, especially it's going to be interesting because Allison's going to be working there, so it's going to make having an affair a little easier. You would have even more cover for it. But, at the same time, all this happened, because the title of this episode is The New Patty. I thought it was supposed to represent Allison becoming the new Patty, in the sense that she starts acting a little bit more like Patty. Being spontaneous or something, like spontaneous is what, but I thought like is what Allison's doing this episode, but I thought that's what it was kind of referencing, of like she's going to be the new Patty. It's like, no, they mean the literal new Patty, as they meet a dude named Patrick who just goes by the name Patty, who just kind of does whatever he wants. And it's like, oh, they're like, oh, we need that, because that's what Patty represented for their group. She was kind of the enforcer. It's like, without her, it's like, we can't kind of have our way. And Patty's cool and everything. They really like him. It's like, oh, yeah, there's a woman here, certain height, brown hair, like, what was it, like 50 to 60 or something like that. She's like, I'm 30 something and I look it. I was about to say, wait, she's not that old. And it's like, oh, yeah, like, when he was saying, like, she was, like, 50 or 60, it was like, oh, that's messed up. But he's like, right, he's going to put up booby traps to keep out this she-devil, because they're not supposed to call Patty by her name, especially because new Patty's here, so she's referred to as the she-devil, so. But, despite everything, you also had Patty trying to make things up with Kurt after, like, things didn't work out. I wonder, did she think, like, maybe if she could, like, maybe stay with Kurt? I don't know, like, we don't know how that whole pharmacy thing works. Like, he works at the pharmacy, right? So I don't know whether she was still trying to hope that maybe, like, okay, if she could get back with him, maybe that's her way of getting some pills. But Kurt's like, yeah, I got a call from Kevin, and it's like, because she's like, no, you were right, I was just scared, I shouldn't have ended things, but the fact is, like, I'm ready, I want to spend the rest of my life with you, you're stable and everything. It's like, yeah, this is what I want. And it's like, yeah, but Kevin called, and it's like, she's like, what? Yeah, I mean, he's an idiot. It's like, yeah, I know he's an idiot. I've told you our entire relationship that he's an idiot. But he pointed out some stuff about the fact is that, like, right, like, I looked it up, and, like, there is no Salon Expo in that area you're in. He's like, honestly, I don't know what you were up to with Allison, and honestly, I don't care, because it makes me realize, like, even the conversation with Kevin made me realize, I actually don't know you. We sat beside each other for 3 years, and I don't know you. I never did, so that's why he's like, maybe it's best that things did end this way. So, and once again, it's not like she cared that much about the relationship. It was just kind of like once again, better than being alone. At least that's how I interpret it. So things didn't kind of work on that front. Allison's got the burger and everything, and she's trying to decide, like, what she's going to do with it. You also have Kevin and Neil are regretting the whole Patty thing, because he's a lot scarier. Like, the paintball situation, he even, like, there's a giant P on Neil's side. It's like, the guy basically branded me. So it's like, we got to end this. And it's like, well, who's going to be the one to break the news to Patty? And they all put their finger on it, and it's like, oh, it looks like we're at a stalemate, and they're trying to fight to decide who tells them. And then later on, all three of them sitting on the couch, and then, like, Patty's over there, like, sharpening his knife. Allison brings in a burger. It's like, oh, yeah, like, the fact of the matter, it seems like it was a sorry from somebody because someone had left a note too, and he's like, trying to figure it out. It's like, oh, guys, this sounds crazy, but I think it's from Patty. And oh my god, wow, great deductive work, Kevin. But there Patty comes in, and she kind of sets the record straight of, like, right, they agree with me, like, they're not trying to be nice, they're just scared of you. And it's like, guys, are you actually scared of me? And they're like, I mean, Kevin's like, it's not manly to start any statement with I feel. It's too soft. But it's like, yeah, and even Neil being like, yeah, I'm big, and yeah, you scare me. So he's like, oh, I'm sorry about that, guys. It's not what I wanted. He ends up, he took something before he left, and Pete was about to stop him, but Kevin just stops him. He's like, no, don't let him take it. And he's like, yeah, like, because of the thing I did with the mannequin, I broke my parole. He's like, what'd you do with the mannequin? He's like, that's sweet of you. And Kevin's almost like, no, like, I legitimately don't know what the hell you did to him. What? And he's like, well, I'll see you guys in 5 to 7. I was like, wow, you're kind of a psychopath. You're kind of a psychopath there, Patty. But, yeah, there Patty is back and everything. Kevin being like, I like the look of your gym. And she's like, thanks. And it's like, oh, here's this apologetic burger and everything, but Allison didn't put the pills in it. In fact, she actually gives him she gives him the Patty. And it's like, yeah, it worked out. It's like, but obviously for Patty, it's like, yeah, it still only solves half my issues because I still have a cop running around. Because even Kurt was like, yeah, there's this cop that was talking about you. I'm like, okay, so that's interesting. So she's definitely closing in because she hasn't made the rounds to the family, like to her brothers and Pete yet. So we'll see how things kind of work on that front. But obviously for Patty, it's like, but you going through with this plan, like, you're going to, like, the moment you, like, everything you did to get these pills and everything, you made me an accomplice by you not telling me what was what. So if you do go down for anything happening to Kevin, it's going to fall back on me. So now she's making a situation where we kind of help each other in their regard of, like, right, so you need, obviously the detectives, Ridgway is still looking into the pill situation, like trying to find out who's behind all that. It's like, so why don't we give her a scapegoat? Basically, they want to throw Kevin under the bus, making it seem like he's connected to all this by basically having him get murdered rather than kind of like in a inconspicuous way, like the whole overdose. They make it big and everything and kind of violent, and so they kind of connect him to all of this, make it so that his murders associate with this, make it seem like he was the one connected to all this. It's like, well, Allison's like, oh, you think I can do something violent? She's like, no, like, look at the jacket you're wearing. But it's like, do you know anyone that could fit that role? And Patty's like, I think I have an idea. Like, she's heard about Nick's reputation, so supplying Nick with the pills while also basically hiring him to be a hitman to kill Kevin, so that basically Kevin ends up taking the fall. So it solves both of their problems because Kevin needs to die. Like, she's done with him, but also, like I brought up earlier, because Patty's like, right, Kevin is a jackass that ruins everything. Like, once you've seen it, because it's kind of what she made the description earlier of, like, once you've basically squeeze out the toothpaste, you can't get it back in. But Patty tried to be like, oh, but you can use a Q-tip. But it's like, yeah, once you've seen Kevin the way he really is, you can't unsee it. Which I'm wondering, is there any other member of the family we're going to get that this season, or is it just going to be like, no, this is an Allison and Patty thing? I think that's also another reason why Allison wanted to make sure Patty was okay, because I think for her it's like, oh, let's go like break into something or do like, let's get up some bad stuff, because it's like, I think she also wanted an excuse to hang out with Patty because her and Patty are kind of friends now, Once again, crazy that it took them like 10 years of being family for that to finally happen, but this sets up a lot of interesting things. I'm curious what they're going to do, because one pill bottle isn't going to be enough, because the thing is, it's not going to stop there, but at the very least, it could get the wheels turning. But it's like, what are you going to do afterwards? Because he's not going to be satisfied with just one pill bottle. He's going to want more. So they're going to have to find some way around that. He'll probably be like, okay, this is a good starter. I'll do what you want me to do, but you're going to have to get me more pills. So they're probably going to have to find some way to up the supply. How they're going to do that, we'll have to wait and see. Well, that depends on if everything turns out that way. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see where all of this takes us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.